Gardaí have said they believe a further protest is being planned outside an accommodation centre in Citywest in Dublin later this evening. The Assistant Commissioner in charge of Dublin said the events of the past 2 days were not a peaceful protest and that many of those involved in the violence are not from the locality.
Gardaí today maintained a presence outside the accommodation for international protection applicants and Ukrainian refugees in Citywest, following a second night of rioting last night. Families and children inside were terrified.
We're concerned with the families who live there, who have to come to school, and what they see around them frightens them. What they've witnessed at night scares them, and it's not their fault.
The violence began after uniformed Gardaí directed people to leave the scene. The public order, dog and mounted units were again deployed to push back the mostly so-called recreational rioters with hoods up and faces covered as fireworks and missiles were thrown at Gardaí.
I want to condemn again the shocking thuggish rioting last evening in Dublin and the attacks on Garda Síochána. Garda Síochána are there to protect our community and our people. They've behaved very professionally and very courageously and bravely, and it is quite shocking that people would attack our Gardaí in this manner. There will be a very robust response.
The Gardaí issued body cam footage of the atmosphere and violence from their perspective. The Garda Representative Association has commended the courage of the Gardaí and called for a more robust policing response. The officers in charge say many of the violent agitators are from other areas.
They are coming from outside the Dublin area. It would appear that there may be a protest being planned for tonight. Again, it may be a peaceful protest, but we also have to be very mindful that people may infiltrate peaceful protests and that may use that peaceful protest to cause violence.
We have a constant presence of guards in the Citywest complex and in the environs of it on an ongoing basis, and we will do over the next 4 to 5 days.
31 men, women and teenagers have been arrested over the past 2 days, and Gardaí say more people will be arrested as more suspected offenders are identified.
And Paul joins us now. Paul, what are Gardaí expecting in the coming hours and indeed days?
Well, Sharon, you'd think the fact that so many people have been arrested and charged and brought before the courts over the past 2 days, and the fact that the Gardaí have implemented a robust policing policy, that it would discourage particularly violent agitators from coming out for a third night. But we really have to wait and see. The Gardaí are saying that they have a graduated policing plan in place and they have all the specialist units on standby, ready to be activated. They are taking a robust approach and they will move in quickly if there's any violence exhibited. They also say they're very conscious of the impact that these events are having on the locality, on the areas of Citywest and Saggart in particular. They say that people are being prevented from going to work, from going to the shops and even from visiting people in hospital, and they want to reassure them that they are there to protect them and to prevent further violence from taking place. And they have again issued an appeal particularly to young people not to come out and get involved in criminal activities or with violent intent. They are stressing that these are not games, this is not entertainment, it's not fun, it's real life, and reckless decisions that they may make to get involved or to get swept up in this activity will have long-term consequences as people are being arrested and brought before the courts. And they've also appealed to people who have influence over young people, parents, mentors, sports coaches, friends, anybody that has any influence over the young people who have been involved in these protests, to try to encourage them not to come out tonight.
Crime correspondent Paul Reynolds, thank you for that.
Well, 16 people have appeared in court following that second night of disturbances at the Citywest accommodation centre in Dublin. They were charged with public order offences.
A total of 15 men and 1 woman ranging between 18 and 66 years of age and with addresses in Dublin, Carlow, Galway and Laois appeared before Dublin District Court today on public order charges in connection with disturbances at Saggart in County Dublin. 35-year-old Roberto Efrate, with an address of 9 Slade Castle Court, Saggart, was charged with violent disorder after Gardaí objected to bail. Garda Shane O'Brien of Clondalkin Garda Station told the court that CCTV footage showed the father of 3 throwing bricks, traffic cones and glass bottles at the public order unit at Citywest. Garda O'Brien said Mr Efrate was also seen standing on a wall, urging protesters to move further towards Gardaí. Judge Paula Murphy granted Mr Efrate bail on a bond of €3,000, where €1,000 was to be lodged in cash. Judge Murphy remanded the 15 facing public order charges on their own bail of between €200 and €300 after they consented to conditions to stay away from Saggart and Citywest, all iPass centres, and not to engage or participate in violent protests. Sharon Lynch, RTE News.
Joined now by the Minister for Justice, Jim O'Callaghan. Thanks for coming in to speak to us on 6-1 this evening. For 2 nights now, hundreds of people have been causing disruption, destroying the place out there in Citywest. You met with the Garda Commissioner. How much more of this can people expect? Is it going to go on for the next few days?
Well, I hope we're not going to see more of it, Sharon, but if there are people out there who've made a decision that they want to go up there and create violence, they'll be met with a very forceful response from Garda Síochána and from our criminal justice system. As you've seen already, 31 people have been arrested over the past 2 nights. There's a very strong force of Garda Síochána up there. The public order unit are up there. I had the privilege of going out there today to commend and thank the Gardaí, the rank and file Gardaí, for the very professional and brave policing work they've done over the past 2 nights. And I believe they will once again stand beside the Irish people and defend property and defend themselves against criminal attacks.
We heard Gardaí saying today that the peaceful protests that were originally planned had been infiltrated by people who were intent on violence. And so much of this is being orchestrated and amplified online by social media platforms. What action is being taken against those platforms? Can you do anything about it?
Well, I had a very good briefing this afternoon as well from the Commissioner and the Deputy Commissioners and the Assistant Commissioner responsible for Dublin. They gave me very good insight into the intelligence and Garda Síochána have. They have excellent intelligence. Some of it comes from social media, obviously other of it comes from elsewhere. In terms of social media companies, they do have a responsibility to ensure that people are not allowed to engage in criminal activity online. And that's something that they're going to have to reflect on as well. But I suppose there's an advantage to Garda Síochána from seeing what's on social media, because we're getting a lot of information from it, and that's why the Gardaí have been able to provide such a brave, professional and forceful response.
The Garda Representative Association called for a tougher response. They said that the water cannon is there, but it's in the background and perhaps it should be used. I mean, is that going to happen over the next few days?
Well, one thing I'm not going to do is take on the role of being Garda Commissioner. We've outstanding senior management within the force. They will make the decision as to whether or not a water cannon should be used. What I'm pleased to announce, however, is that since the Dublin riots, we've now been able to invest an extra 7.3 million in the public order unit. We've been able to buy 2 water cannon. The Gardaí and public order unit are much better resourced and equipped. I just want the message to go out. Any person thinking of going up there this evening for trouble would be ill-advised to do so. As I said, they'll be met with a forceful response, but also, as the Gardaí said today, it'll have very serious consequences for people later in life if they find themselves before the courts charged with public order offences.
At the heart of all of this are people who have very genuine concerns about Citywest being used as an accommodation centre. People are saying that they feel unsafe. Are those legitimate concerns?
Listen, I appreciate the legitimate concerns, and there are very many decent people in Saggart and the surrounding area who have concerns. I just want to say the local people are not the people out there throwing rocks at Garda Síochána. They're the people who are engaging with local TDs. I've spoken to my colleagues John Lahart and Shane Moynihan. I spoke to all the TDs from the constituency the other day. So I'm getting very good feedback in respect of the legitimate issues that the community have. I'm also very pleased that the Citywest Community Council met last night online. So there's a lot of work being done by my department in respect of engagement with the local community, but I need to do more, and we need to ensure that the legitimate concerns of people in the community are heard and acted on.
We heard some of the voices there earlier of people in the area, and one man said at the end of this, you know, What does the Irish government expect? So people obviously feel that they haven't been listened to, that there hasn't been leadership from this government on the issue of immigration and asylum.
Well, I think there has been leadership, but one thing the Irish government don't expect and one thing the Irish public don't expect is violence. People are perfectly entitled to make a political point. They're perfectly entitled to oppose government policy. They are not entitled to use violence and break the criminal law and attack members of An Garda Síochána who are there to defend the Irish public. In terms of immigration, it's obviously a complex issue, but in the area of international protection, I've introduced a number of measures that have ensured that we've had a rules-based system in this country. The numbers of people applying for asylum this year are down in the last couple of years. I've put in force more vigorous enforcement measures to ensure that people are being deported if they're not entitled to stay in the country. And I'm not afraid to say that. If you come to Ireland and you claim asylum and you're granted asylum, you're more than welcome to stay. If you come to Ireland to claim asylum and you don't get it, you can't stay and you must leave.
All right, Minister for Justice Jim O'Callaghan, thanks for coming in to speak to us this evening on 6-1.
Thanks, Sharon.